Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all for today's session that is for changing paradigm trends in the cosmetic industry post-COVID. Uh, I welcome you all, and to begin with, I would like to introduce my first panelist, that is Ms. Birgit Huber, who is the Deputy Director General for IKW, which is the trade association for cosmetics, perfumeries, detergent, and home care products. Uh, our next panelist is Mr. Nitin Sharma, Business Head South Asia for BU Industrial and Consumer Specialities at Clariant India Limited. Our third panelist is Mr. Manish Chaudhary, Head India Business for CLE Global Accounts at Galaxy Surfactants. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Renuka Thelgaonkar, who's currently the president for ICC, that is Indian Society of Cosmetics and Chemists. Now I request Mr. Dilip Raghavan to take this session ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday evening for this particular session, which is our kickoff in our series of webinars for the home and personal care industry under the ambit of HPCI India, as all of you know. So we are very happy to have amongst us 4 distinguished panelists who would be addressing us on a subject that is very, very topical and timely in today's context. Of course, we stick to our core competence of addressing subjects as relevant to the home and personal care industry. And we'll try to learn from these 4 experts who would lend their individual and distinctly different perspectives on how the cosmetic industry and the home care industry is going to be impacted in these strange times, or the post-COVID times as we know it, that has been brought upon us in the recent past. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite all of them to share their views. But just a quick background to whom we are and why we are doing this. As all of you know, we are the organizers of the HPCI India show, which many of you have been engaged with in the past as exhibitors, visitors, speakers, delegates, whatever the context might be. That said, this is only one tool in our larger basket of delivery mechanisms for serving this particular home and personal care industry. We already have or are in the midst of securing a publication for this particular industry, doing webinars of this sort, especially in these times, also engaging in market research, doing a bit of training. Basically, we'd like to look upon it not as a single tool, which is a show or a publication, but it's a vertical in itself, finally converging in us representing the interests as a service provider for the home and personal care industry. So with that little background, I'd like to immediately on cue bring on board Ms. Birgit Huber. She's already been introduced. And she would give us a macro perspective through her global lenses as to how customer preferences are changing in this post-COVID era and what that as a result could actually bring upon us as an industry. So Birgit, really thrilled to have you here from Germany, and we invite you to share your views, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dilip. Thank you for the invitation and giving me the chance, and good morning from Germany. Well, it's only lunchtime here. Yes, I have brought you some figures because, you know, we have made some studies on consumer behavior, and I think these figures are very interesting for all over the world because I think the consumer behavior is quite similar everywhere. No, I can't. Here we are. Well, we have made an inquiry with 1,000 consumers, and 41% of the consumers said that they have not changed their beauty habits during the crisis. This is quite a good figure. What was interesting as too is before the reopening of hairdressers, you know, in Germany, hairdressers were closed and they are open since beginning of May. 60% of the men and 64% of the women were waiting to come back to have their hair cut. And 55% of the female adults want their hair color completely refreshed. So hairdressers have a big role in this. People were waiting to go back to the hairdressers. We have asked consumers, what did you do during the crisis? 45% said that they spent less time on makeup. 44% said that they spend less time on hairstyling, and 30% said on hair washing. And what was interesting and what we call more or less the losers of the crisis are the lipstick and the perfumes, because 1/3 of the respondents who currently do not use a product application mentioned the lipstick or perfume. So this is really interesting, because usually we say, in the past, we knew that during the crisis, lipstick was a very important point, but now lipstick was not so much on the focus. What did they spend more time in? They spent 32% more time on the morning shower, 31% on hand cream, 23% on cream my body, 20% brush my teeth, 20% use a mask for my face. And the absolute winner, absolutely, during the crisis are hand creams, because 24% of respondents who currently value a product named the hand cream. So what are the real winners of the crisis? Well, it's soaps, because that is, and hand cleansers. It was very clear that during the crisis, people washed their hair more often. They used hand sanitizers. So really the hand cleaning was very important, and maybe that gave the consumer that they saw the need that they have to use hand cream afterwards. So these are some of the figures I wanted to share with you. So it's really interesting to see that the consumer have changed their habits during the crisis. Well, they changed the way they bought their products. It was very difficult to buy all the products in the shop. So a lot of online, as they've changed to online shopping. So now it is really interesting to see whether the consumer will go back to this behavior he had before the crisis, or will he take some of the experiences he had during the pandemic and when staying at home, and we will see really the development on how this will go. For example, I think the face masks was mentioned here, that maybe they found that they have a big value for them. That's anyway one of the real good experience we have from the pandemic, is that people recognized how valuable cosmetic products are for their everyday life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Birgit. I'd just like to follow it up with two questions, which are actually, one is directly related to the outcomes of your findings with IKW. Maybe I can start with that. Do you think this is a scientific process that is actually being adopted and being taken cognizance of by the various brands who are engaged in this? Because definitely this is going to cause a certain shift in the way they produce products, and they also market them to the consumer. Do you think this is something that's also going to take shape going ahead?
Possibly. I mean, I think, you know, it's important now for the brands. It's important now to follow and look what will happen in the future, and how consumers behave, whether will change or whether they will keep what they have learned in the last months. It's very difficult to predict, but I think there will be some changes.
Okay, good. And of course, the The reason why I asked that is also a pointed question because we also intend to conduct such a survey here in India so that we could, on our part, give it back to the industry as a small guideline as to what they could focus on and maybe shape their fortunes going ahead. So thank you, Birgit.
I have read a study that during the crisis that the consumer didn't stick to their brand, which they are used to. But we have no data on that. But I have recently read some information about it that it seems that the consumer was much more open to new brands.
Okay, thank you. And Birgit, just one thing I'm also tempted to ask you, given your role at IKW, which is also at the forefront of ensuring compliance and safety of products, is we see a trend. Obviously, you know, there are many companies that are jumping onto the bandwagon of manufacturing, I wouldn't quite say cosmetics, but hand sanitizers, etc. In India at this point in time. What would your take be in terms of the consumer and the regulatory authorities ensuring that these products meet the bare minimum safety standards so that consumers are not taken for a ride, or worse still, they're not compromising on their safety?
Well, I mean, these products for Europe, for example, it's easy because they are falling under the current legislation. Either is the biocide legislation or the cosmetic legislation, so they have to be safe. I mean, there has to be a legislation for these products. You cannot just bring these products on the market like nothing and say, well, it will be safe. So you have to do the safety assessment. You have to make sure that the consumer uses these products and can feel comfortable to use these products.
Okay, thank you so much, Birgit. We'll of course be engaging with you going ahead in this panel as well. For the moment, before I bring in the next panelist to share his views, I'd like to inform the audience, which is turned up in fairly large numbers, that we would field question and answers as a consolidated exercise at the end of the narrative of all the other panel members. So we'd not like to break the flow immediately, but with time on hand, we would definitely try to address as many questions as we can. And I would request you to keep the questions flowing, but we'll address all of them at the end in a consolidated manner. So thank you for that. I'd like to bring in our next panelist, Nitin Sharma from Clariant. Birgit has given us a macro perspective on changing customer preferences and how that could impact products, cosmetic products going ahead. Cosmetic products are indeed in turn driven by the ingredients that constitute them. And it would be good to share, to have a deeper perspective on what implication these new trends might have on the cosmetic ingredients. And we have a very worthy speaker from Clariant. So I'd leave the stage to Mr. Nitin Sharma to please enlighten us on this particular aspect. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you, Dilip. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining the webinar today. I would be basically talking of the biggest challenge of our decade, the COVID crisis, and how this would be impacting the personal care consumption throughout the world, and then drilling this down further to the formats and the ingredients market. So if you look at what has exactly happened with the COVID crisis, there are uncertainties, quarantines, travel bans are now all very much part of our daily routines. What this has led to is, as I said, all of us in panic mode. This panic mode has created a huge stockpiling effect, which basically has led to drive of personal sales in different categories by over 50 to 70%, and a lot of volatility in the whole complete value chain. So health became first and indulgence became a distant second. Now, of course, most of us have been trying to predict the future, which has been an enormous task. At Clariant, we also have some insights, which I thought I'll share today through this webinar. So what we see is that there are three definite trends that are emerging out. The world would be online and more than ever. Second is self-care is the new personal care and is much more than indulgence. Thirdly, we talk of economic pain. Now I'll just go down and explain to you each and every one of these in a bit of detail. So when I talk of the world is going online, actually it was going online earlier as well. But what happened post-COVID is that it took this to altogether new level. So e-commerce became the driver for change. Most of the sales from becoming a single or one of the channels, e-commerce became the channel that everyone was going after. So most of the consumer sales was coming from this channel. And what this meant for cosmetics were that even the cosmetics had to be designed, the formats had to be designed for this particular channel. So just to give you an example, we are now talking of solid or waterless shipping formats just to cater to this new trend which is emerging. We are looking at digital experiences, products and formats which can provide digital experience to the customers. If I look at the second trend, which we see now is self-care, which I say self-care is the new personal care. There already was a convergence in beauty and health. But now with this crisis coming in, there is much more focus on the health aspect. Health has taken much bigger priority. And what this has led to is that there is altogether a development of a new category called hygiene. Now this category earlier when we were talking of was just a simple hand sanitizer, but with evolution of this category, we might see various new formats coming in. Today, I would be talking of these formats a bit as well. And lastly, as I was explaining again, indulgence will move on to the second place. The last, but not the least, is what we talk the economic pain. Right now, this has been the most difficult, I should say, trend to estimate into. As per our experience of the past crisis, the customers became much more rational when we are talking about the cost benefit aspect. So might be the case that the value for money would be revisited again. So what this will lead to is that the customer would look into reducing spends or going into multifunctional cosmetic products and reduce his overall spending on the category itself. Or he might move into white labels or tier 2, tier 3 brands. So this is what we see that could drive the change in the future across the personal care segment. Going on, what I have done is I've just tried to focus on one of the categories because hand has been getting unprecedented, I should say, as a category has been getting unprecedented attention. Our focus also has been to do a deep dive on the hand hygiene. So if you look at the hand hygiene category, there are 4 subcategories in it. You have the sanitizing, you have the cleansing, you have the moisturizing, and you have the replenishment. So what earlier when we were talking of these categories, if I talk of sanitization, we were just talking of a plain vanilla ethanolic gels. And if you're talking of cleansing, we were talking of simple liquid soap formulations or bar soap formulations. Post-COVID, we are seeing a strong overlap between these categories. We are seeing that these categories are intermingling with each other. You can have a sanitizing and cleansing action being provided by one format. It could be a cleansing and moisturizing being provided by another one. So what we are seeing is that this overlap and blurring of boundaries between these categories is leading into new formats, new textures, and new claims. Now, what does this mean? Just drilling down further in this, these new formats basically are disrupting the boundaries as I was mentioning. What they do is like from a normal, if I talk of a hand sanitizer, we are now moving into a leave-on foam hand sanitizer, which is completely alcohol-free, which is a leave-on application, which will not drip, and which will give you a good after feel as well. So silky feel, because you now would be applying the hand sanitizer, not just for a couple of minutes, but you will be leaving it on for a longer period of time. So that shows how the categories of cleansing and sanitizing are being blurred and are, I should say, merging together. If we move on, you will have aqua gel forms coming in, like for hand rubs, where you want fast acting antimicrobials, plus also a long lasting residual effect of these sanitizing effect. Lastly, it could be a spray or wipes. This again is a growing category that we see in this segment. Now, what does all this mean for the ingredient supplier? So these new formats and these habits which are changing post the COVID crisis and even right now needs that the ingredients also have to come up with specific functionalities. What do I mean by that? What we are seeing in categories is there is a definite push for antimicrobials, both looking into immediate as well as residual antimicrobial effects, thus providing you a long-lasting sanitizing effect. We are looking at polymers, which are now providing you all the necessary sensorial effects. We are looking at mild surfactants. Earlier in cleansing and all, we were talking more of regular surfactants, but by regular washing your hands and all would also lead to taking off moisture from the, skin itself. So hence, there definitely is a resurgence of mild surfactants that we see in this current scenario. If I talk of emollients basically would be more towards mimicking the skin lipid layer as well as replenishing this. So the replenishment angle is coming in from the emollients part. And also when I talk of the value for money would be clearly viewed, we would be looking at multifunctional ingredients. These ingredients basically would be simplifying the formulation, thereby reducing certain components and reducing the overall cost. So I feel this is how this overall market would be shaped out specifically for ingredients going forward, keeping in this COVID crisis and the behavioral change it is bringing in. That's it from my side. I think any questions, Dilip, you have?
Nitin, we'll take questions at the end of the session, as I've already announced. But thanks for that. In fact, it was particularly the second last slide was very telling indeed. You know, it gives a nice little encapsulation of what the challenges, opportunities, and outlook for the ingredients faculty is there in these current times. And thinking aloud, we're actually tempted to, you know, escalate this into a full-fledged presentation sometime in the future as we intensify our webinar engagement with the industry. So for the moment, thanks for this. I'm just tempted to ask one little question, and you can be brief, because again, it could spawn a long answer. Times like this are you know, it's of course, it comes with its own challenges and opportunities. But what do you think would be the outlook of a company like yours, you know, one of the leading companies like yours, to in terms of investing in R&D? Because on the one side, you have the business challenges, and on the other side, you have the opportunities to actually capitalize on the new needs of the hour. So how would a company like yours view intensifying its R&D efforts at such times?
So actually, we are at Clariant seeing this as an opportunity to grow further and increase our footprint in the personal care space. So as I was mentioning, some of these categories like antimicrobials or polymers, we already are increasing our capacities and coming up with multifunctional ingredients like glucotane and all, which is a mild surfactant, but can also give you a conditioning effect and as a very good rheology modifier. So we are trying to come up with these new ingredients, which are looking into the multifunctionality of the ingredients. We are trying to grow our portfolio specifically in mild surfactants and antimicrobials and polymers. So the investments are already on, and the increase in capacity also, even in India, we have done that actually, because we are seeing India as a big market for us.
Okay, thank you, Nitin. We'll come back to you at the end once again. So that brings us to our third panelist. I'd like to bring in Mr. Manish Chaudhary from Galaxy Surfactants. And we've essentially run through specific views on the personal care or the cosmetics industry so far. The home care market in itself is a big one and equally relevant in these times. So, Mr. Manish Chaudhary, we'd like to invite your views on how you see this shaping up in these current times, giving your perspectives not only from within India, but also on a global canvas. Over to you, Manish. Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank HPCI for this opportunity to be on the panel, this wonderful panel, to share my thoughts. And initially, I thought, I will not prepare any presentation for panel discussion. And then I realized, the virtual panel discussion, it is not very easy. And then I thought I use some slides to bring in or to jump on the agenda quite faster. So let me run through some slides, and then maybe I can further take it from there. Yeah. So of course, COVID had changed the life around us. It had everybody now you see a different life, a different way we live the life. So everybody want to be staying at home. There is no, there is no public gatherings. There are no social gatherings, and that is really everybody wants to go out as minimal as possible. And that's logical. So that is how we are living life post-COVID. Now, one more thing which has given a significant impact of COVID is refocus on health and hygiene. Of course, health and hygiene is an important part of our life, but COVID has renewed this focus and increased the intensity on this aspect of home, hygiene and sanitization. Now, the globally, if you talk about, there is an increase in intensity in terms of renewed focus on this aspect. But in India, the health and hygiene awareness as well as the practice standards are slightly lower than the global standards. So, in fact, COVID has really helped us, as an Indian, where the focus has now started to come back on cleanliness and health and safety. So there is more awareness now. The standards have improved, which otherwise at very low levels, and people are really concerned about these aspects of cleanliness. And they are not concerned about this aspect when they are around home, but also when they are going around outside. So be the social places like hospitals, like shopping malls or restaurants. So these aspects of cleanliness and health and hygiene will be very much in focus for even all these social places. So that's a very that's driving a lot of changes in the market, globally and especially in India. So I will touch upon those aspects going forward. There is also change in the consumer habits, because of this change of life. So there is increase in frequency of bathing. Of course, hand wash is the most potent weapon against coronavirus, and there is a lot of awareness. And people are also shifting from bar soap to liquid hand wash. Being it seems as a more hygienic. So of course, these are some of the habits that we have changed in terms of cleanliness, hand washing multiple times now, increase the bathing frequency. But that is not all our. Sanitizing and cleaning is not only limited to your hands, but probably everything that we use and we touch it, in our day-to-day life. So, be it, the other day I was hearing, reading the article when some textile company launched, antimicrobial fabric, So, I mean, that's the kind of, craze, I'll say, in terms of cleaning and sanitation, all this aspect of our life, So be it the gadgets that we use, the clothes, the medicine, the money that we handle, hand, car, everything people are very concerned about cleanliness and sanitization. So that's one very important aspect for, especially in India, in this category is veggie wash. So India being more of popular vegetarian people, the focus is more on vegetables. So there's a lot of products, a lot of push requirement, especially for veggie wash, meat wash category. So these are some of the new concerns that we see in the market in the new world post-COVID. Now, all this, the way we have now changed, the way we live now has also changed the consumption patterns, because, there is a change in habits, there is a change in the consumer trends. So overall, there is a slowdown in consumption because of the economic impact, of course, and also the need-based consumption has come down. The experience consumption and non-essential consumption definitely hit, negatively. However, there are some categories, which my panelists earlier also mentioned, the personal and home care hygiene. These are the categories which are seeing the positive impact in the consumption. And as, Nitin has, came out with the topic that this has also given the requirement of value for money brands. So it's not just the change of category, but even in the category which are positively impacted, people are looking for value for money brands. They're looking for cheaper prices, discounts in the market. So that's what I said. I wanted to say what is happening around us, but then what is this impact on the various categories of HPC industries, especially home care and the personal care. So if I talked about the specific categories, where we have impact, of course, the hand wash, the bar soaps, the body wash, these categories are seeing multi-fold increase in their demand. And you see many consumer companies coming into this storage, coming out with innovative products, in terms of hand wash, moisturizing hand wash, and all these aspects. So these are the categories which are really seeing big impacts. Other than this, sanitizers, we talked about, so not only hand sanitizer, but sanitizing everything, various format of sanitizer, maybe spray, multi-surface sanitizers, gel, foam, and lots of new categories which has emerged, and that has also multi-fold increased the demand of sanitizers. It's become household item in India, which was not earlier. Other than this, the floor cleaners, multi-purpose surface cleaners are the categories, especially in home care. They are driving the growth all across the world, including in India, because in India we have improved also the hygiene standards post-COVID. So all this, is really putting a lot of, pressure on the ingredients for, floor cleaners and multi-purpose surface cleaners. And in fact, we are seeing some shortage in the ingredients for making these categories. So that's the category which are really doing well in terms of the home care. The other categories I mentioned, some new categories which has emerged post-COVID are like veggie wash, meat wash, and very specific car sanitization. These are the categories which were not there much earlier, but now they have become very common, very new, and they are growing very fast. So we are seeing many players in the industry are coming up with their offerings in these categories. Now, these are all categories which I talked about having a positive impact. There are some categories which have a negative impact, and I think my panelists have also mentioned earlier. But just try to touch upon those aspects. Color cosmetics, UV filters, especially the categories which are affected negatively. The sun care, lip care, because people are using masks when they go out. So lip care is a category which is affected negatively. Perfume and the luxury cosmetics that we talked about. Even the room fresheners in home care, especially, is a category which is affected slightly negatively, in this current COVID world. Now, if I had to tell how long it will play out and when we see normalizing, is difficult to say. But then when we start living the normal life, these categories which are having negative impact will come back to the normal glory, and normal growth, especially in India. These categories were going in double digits. So they will come back with their growth once we start living the normal life. However, the first aspect of cleanliness and hygiene, I feel that even in we come back post-COVID world, there will be increased demand, especially in India, because as I said, the awareness and standards of health and hygiene in India was poor, and with this change, it has been a new habit, which is will going to stay with us even post-COVID. And I see this demand of cleanliness products, is going to continue even post-COVID. So thank you. That's my view on.
Thank you, Manish. So actually, we have always, personally, I have always looked upon this particular segment. You might choose to call it cosmetics or whatever, but I think the umbrella entity for this is actually care chemicals, and I'm glad you touched upon the fact that institutional care, car care, vegetable care, which is finally from a formulation point of view, it's pretty coherent with what we are actually doing with other sectors. So it's good to know that amidst some of the challenges, there are going to be a fair amount of opportunities for other segments as well. So thank you for your narrative, and we'll come back to you again at the end of the session.
Thank you.
So in the sequence of panelists, we've run through 3 of them, and I'd like to invite our 4th panelist, Dr. Renuka Thergaonkar. We've moved from the global scenario to a deep dive into the ingredients. We go back to a macro level scenario, but now focusing on India and how the market and the consumers are going to shape the industry in this particular geography that most of us are concerned with. So leave the stage to, or rather leave the screen in this case, to Dr. Renuka for her narrative.
Thank you so much, Dilip. Thank you for inviting. And I'll just take you through a small, actually why we are here today sitting at home and doing the webinar. So we will just go through the how in 2018, if we look at the market, and we see that this was the same slide which was presented during HPCI, and it had that rising younger generation in tier 2, tier 3 cities. They were the target market. Makeup was seen as a very good self-expression, and online market was booming very well. In fact, online sales account was around 50 million or 2% of overall cosmetic sale. And it was growing very well. And it was said that in wellness, herbal and premium care brands were the main growth areas which will be there. So this was actually what when in 2018-19, these 2 years, this is what we were talking about. And we saw that suddenly after that COVID came. And when COVID came, the whole world came to a standstill. In India also, April and May were the months where we went in for productivity was hampered. We were at home. And cosmetic industry, apart from personal care industry like hand wash, soap, body wash, apart from these 2-3 sanitizers, everything came to a standstill. People were facing a lot of issues, and consumers. There was a survey which was done by Global Data Survey, COVID-19 data, where they saw that 47% Indians were stocking personal hygiene products. And with respect to price range, about 48% Indians preferred beauty products in the middle to premium price range. This was done in April, May, when it was just the beginning of pay cuts and all. Slowly, when we came towards end of May and the June started, the demand for low cost products by masses started. So during this time, even today, the challenges which are faced by Indian cosmetic industry are related to the workforce scarcity, hampered sourcing of material and increasing RM cost, less brand loyalty among consumers. Consumers are whatever is available in the market, whatever is cheaper, whatever they can lay hand on, they are purchasing the products. And this is all happening because of finance crunch, which is being seen by the industry, not only by the manufacturers and the industries, but also by the consumers. And in all this process, the ticket size of spending has dropped. Similarly, the product quality has also been hampered. The salons have come to a standstill, which has actually led to decrease in the sale of salon products. Even a lot of people are without jobs. So these challenges during these times, and with lot of uncertainty around, with again lockdowns coming in, suddenly the perspective of Indian consumer has changed, and consumers are thinking all about holistic and sustainable living. So today people are looking at again looking at the wellness wheel. So earlier when we had discussed this in HPCI about the wellness seminar which we had, so there we said that people are trying to balance, but today the wellness wheel has slightly disaligned, and more emphasis is more on physical wellness rather than the other wellness. It's physical and emotional. These are the two things which are being emphasized more upon. So these two, since they are being emphasized more upon, the products are accordingly changing. So people are going back to aromatherapy, they are going back to herbal products, and they are looking at 360-degree healthcare. And healthy and hygiene emphasis is there, and nourishing is another word which is there. But everything people are doing, but at the same time, they are very frugal because of reduced spending capacity. So if we look at the immediate impact of COVID or impact on sectors post-COVID, we will see that there will be a decrease, at least for the next 6 months to 8 months, there will be a decrease in fragrance sales, salon treatment products, and color cosmetics. This is going to see a major downfall, whereas hair care and baby care market is not going to change anywhere. It is going, the sale of these products will be similar. And the major growth areas which will be seen will be in the skin care and personal hygiene products, which everyone here on this panel discussed about how personal hygiene products change, will increase, and how there is a shortage of even the raw materials which are there. So if we look at the impact of COVID-19 with the concept of stay home, stay safe, work from home, this has actually, though it has changed the consumer perspective towards purchase of the product, but at the same time, it has impacted the business as well. But this impact on business can actually be looked at from the opportunity which can be provided to the people through this. And it is basically a very good opportunity for Asia Pacific brands to innovate in terms not only of marketing strategies, but also product design. And there is a lot of acceptance and demand for Indian grown brands now in the global market. So India is also being considered as a new contract manufacturing hub. More functionality, innovation with respect to brands are facing, so more pressure to convey safe, good quality products with good efficacy is what we are looking at. The reduction of import has also led to increased opportunity for Indian raw material manufacturers as well as packaging industry. So if we look at today packaging industry, people who are from the packaging industry, they can look upon creating these packaging solutions in India and look at sustainable solutions. Product concepts have also changed. So post-COVID, we will see that a lot of clean products will be seen. These clean products are not from the aspect of only the textures and the aspect, but clean from the basics of the transparency also, like marketing brands will be talking about the ingredients which are there. They will be more open to the components which are present, and consumers are looking at more Ayurveda based products because they feel with all everyone at home having turmeric, ginger, it has become a part of life, cinnamon. So these are the ingredients. So mostly Ayurveda is something which has just gone in, and even today general customers are looking at, if there is some turmeric or cinnamon based product, they look at it twice, and that's how the purchases are increasing. Similarly, a lot of importance should be given, is being given now on locally produced ingredients. Similarly, natural ingredients are also being emphasized more on. Though textures are increasing, textures are making a difference. But actually, if we look at the textures rather than textures, what are the ingredients that are going in is what people are looking at. A simple housewife will also today look at what are the ingredients in your product and whether they are natural, whether it is sustainably made. So this is what people are looking at, and the products are more purpose driven. So when we are designing, it's more about the purpose driven products, and which are those products which are naturally designed as well as scientifically efficacy is proven. These type of products will be seen more. Similarly, farm to face concept, so where natural materials directly sourced from the farm with very less in between handling of the material, where products are made in a good quality GMP approved facility and the products are made. So farm to face concepts are there. Similarly, packageless products, since because of the package shortage, packageless products will also be seen more as similar to waterless products, where we will have more of powder shampoos and all these things. The Ayurvedic herbs that will be seen more will be, apart from the Bapchi, Ashwagandha and all, we will also be looking at the Bapchiol, which is a supplement, it's a substitute to retinol, or we will also be looking at hemp seed oil or other such type of material, which people will look at. Not only that, the citrus material or essential oils, which are blend of these, aromatherapy emphasis, these are the ones which are going to be seen more in our cosmetic products. So if we look at cosmetics with more potential in post-COVID era, means next 6 months to 1 year, So preventive categories, such as soaps, hand sanitizers, wet wipes, that will be seen more, but hand sanitizer form, which will be, will prefer to go in for alcohol-free hand sanitizers, as well as for natural sanitizers, which are made with silver or other natural extracts with nanoparticles, or these type of formats will be seen more. Similarly, touchless delivery product formats, skincare products such as hand creams and moisturizer, then maskne, because of the constant use of mask, lot of acne issues will be seen, and a lot of irritation will be seen by people, will be experienced by people. So anti-acne, soothing and calming products, beauty from home. So a lot of DIY kits will be sold. Protective personal hygiene, everyone has talked on this, but personal hygiene products will also be like a men's personal hygiene and female personal hygiene products will also be seen much in demand. Natural and organic products with safer quality, higher integrity and transparent innovation is what will be seen. Marketing outlook is more of, since all these natural material will be used more, people will be looking at transparent marketing with digital, through digital platforms, and use of artificial intelligence will be there for this testing, discovery and customization of products. But the major emphasis will still be on safety, health, environment and sustainability perspective. So if we look at the main drivers for growth post-COVID, we had seen pre-COVID, but if we look at now after this, once the market opens, there will be rising health awareness and cautious customers, increased demand for mass market products will be there. Online sales and app-based marketing will be the new desired tool for cosmetic sales in India. A lot of online sale will be there. Lot through mobiles, not only online, even through mobiles, the apps, mobile apps will be there for sale. And main growth areas will be wellness, herbal and premium skincare category. So if we look at whatever was discussed in 2018 and 19, it is still there. So actually we are not somewhere too far from what it was there before, though it is quite uncertain at this stage. But once we open up, the demand for wellness, herbal and premium skincare brands will still increase. And that is why we look upon the upon this as a, not as a crisis, but as an opportunity. We should identify, strategize, execute the best we can. And that is how we should look at today the cosmetic industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Renuka. That was a lovely run through, looking at various elements of how the Indian industry would perhaps react to this. And I'm glad you touched upon the aspect of naturals and Ayurveda also, because a lot of the questions that have come in actually pertain to this. So for those who have actually asked these questions, I trust that answers many of them. Before we actually move ahead, I'm tempted to slightly break out of the sequence and address two very specific questions to both Manish and Nitin, which is not necessarily specific or peculiar to only home and personal care, but to the larger ambit of specialty chemicals that we all operate under. So my first question is to Nitin. How do you think the world is currently viewing India as a manufacturing destination of specialty chemicals, and your views in particular as a leading multinational who's operating in India?
See, India is an attractive hub for foreign investments in manufacturing segment. Several companies from various sectors already have either set up their units or are in process of setting up the unit. For decades now, China has been the factory of the world, and actually now most of the nations and most of large organizations like ourselves are looking at China +1. So we are looking at alternate vendors, alternate suppliers coming in from different geographies. With our PM launching the Make in India program, it has made, I should say, he has tried to place India on the world map as a manufacturing hub, where the government is expecting 25% of the GDP coming in from the manufacturing sector, as well as more than 100 million jobs coming on from this segment itself. So there is, I should say, right now a lot of work being done on the business, the policies, as well as the business conditions in India are positive for further newer investments coming in for chemical and I should say startups and chemical industry. And not to forget the large attractive market that we have in India of over 1 billion customers and whose purchasing power is ever increasing. So definitely this puts India, I should say, puts India in a very good position to lap up to opportunity, to catch up this opportunity to become, I should say, second supplier for the world globally in spec chem space.
Okay, thanks, Nitin. If I could also field the same question to Manish, the only difference being that you would look at it from the point of view of one of the leading specialty chemical players in India. How do you look at this particular opportunity on a global platform?
Yeah, so I agree with Nitin on the capability and focus on India as a manufacturing specialty chemical hub, and I think we are very much there, in terms of the capability, in terms of R&D, in terms of market that we have, and we are also attracting good amount of investment. So as you said, we are one of the leading global suppliers to home and personal care industry around the world for surfactant and specialty chemicals, and we have ourselves, we doing a lot of new concept, new chemicals, molecules to the industry. So that has really happening. People are looking at us, as a innovator, as a supplier of technology and innovation and new products. However, my just one concern in this aspect will be about the infrastructure of basic chemicals. Because even for specialty ingredients to manufacture, you need some basic chemicals, and unfortunately, the basic chemicals infrastructure and availability in India is not encouraging or not self-sufficient. So there we depend on some imports either from China or from Europe. And then we have to use those raw materials as ingredients, in our manufacturing of specialty product for ingredients for HPC industry. So the focus has to be now on the basic chemistry, where it requires a lot of investment. It requires government support. But once that come in, I think we are fully capable and fully ready to be the new, say, factory for specialty chemicals for the world.
Okay, thank you, Manish. Thank you, Nitin. Let's leave it at that, because actually this calls for a deep dive from yourselves and also possibly other experts, and a separate discussion in itself, which we will do sometime in the near future. But for now, let's try to bring to conclusion this particular session before we field question and answers. What I would like each panelist to please do is, if you could just share a one line or a one paraphrase mantra of what should be that, that key survival strategy or the key growth strategy that our formulating industry must adopt to not only survive, but also thrive in these strange times. Starting in the order of speakers, Birgit, yourself.
Well, I was really impressed to see that that the consumers during the crisis valued cosmetics, and Renuka has said that as well. And I think it's and in some countries we were really also mentioned as essential industry. So I think that is very, very important that the consumers keep and see how important our products are for their everyday life. And if that is the case, then that helps everybody. That helps the consumer, and it helps the industry. And it's really, really important that the consumer keeps on using our products and valuing the products.
If you could move on to Nitin, yourself.
Yeah, I'll say self-care is the new personal care. So it's much more than indulgence. Going forward, the cosmetics should be ready to deliver benefits beyond, I should say, indulgence and appearance, but focus more on and deliver more on health benefits as well.
Okay, thanks. Manish?
Yeah, I think the two factors which are prime important and very useful in this scenario are speed and flexibility. So if all of the manufacturers in especially industry can adopt to this fact, flexibility to change and speed. Now you see that lot of new categories has emerged. Some categories like sanitizer was not really category in India. I started to become and grow 3 times, 4 times, 1,000%. So how you use this condition. So you see that a lot of custom companies are coming in launching sanitizers. We are seeing sanitizers launching a sachet, which is a very innovative concept. Similarly, so what we need for that is speed of execution and flexibility for you to look at a different categories which are trending. So that's very critical, and it is not only on the point of view of the category and the launch of the category in the market, but also how you reach to the consumer. I think Nitin has also mentioned about it that and I think even Denuka for that matter mentioned that online sale will grow. Of course, it will go. So how we are geared up, from the traditional supply chain to move to online, how fast we can move to that. And I just want to add to here is that even in the lockdown, time when or even now for that matter, other than online, you also depend on the neighborhood shop, the kirana store. Because that is where you go and fetch the items when you are under lockdown, and many times even the online deliveries are taking time, and products are not available. So how your supply chain is capable of reaching to the small shops, neighborhood shops, that's a different scale, that's a different distribution channel. So I suggest that speed and flexibility is the need of the hour, right from selecting the categories, launching the products, and reaching to the consumers in the right preferable way which they want us to supply.
Dilip, I would like to just share one slide on 1 point mantra, and that is just one, and that is constant is change is the 1 point mantra. So constant is C is create and innovate, H is harness opportunities, A is affordable products, N negate dependency, G good quality products, and E emphasis on local wealth. This is something that the whole industry should look on to grow, and this is what the whole should be. And this is not only from but this is in our Vedas also, that whatever is the only constant that is there is change. And same way we should also look at that and go ahead with her. So that's how I would like to wish the industry a good, very best of luck for their future with this, because that is what is going to take them forward.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now we come to, in the limited time that we have, we'll try and take a few questions. Questions have already started streaming in, so I'm just going to read out a few of them. The first one is there any Indian legislation governing the use of antibacterial and antiviral chemicals that can be used in cosmetics? So I think any of the panelists who chooses to come in may do so, please.
Yes, there are regulations for these, and so you can refer to, there are certain, you can go on the Drug and Cosmetic Act, and there's a whole list. Similarly, BIS also specifications, what are the percentages that you can use. So it is there, but it mostly these type of materials go in the pharmaceutical category in India.
Do we have any idea about the regulatory compliance that surrounds nanomaterials in India?
At present, no, not much of regulatory compliances are there.
Would any of the ingredient representatives like to come in on this, if at all? Because you would have some ingredients that also come into the realm of nanomaterials.
No, I fully agree with Dr. Renuka. There is no clarity on regulations for nanomaterials right now.
Okay. We have one question. It's a bit of a thought and a question. It's interesting. We had really caught on to the sustainability bandwagon of late. Do you think that COVID is going to set that back? Would sustainability take a backseat post-COVID? Would it remain the same, or would it actually receive a boost?
I think it will get more important, because we see from figures that the consumers during the crisis time, they have thought of packaging. They wanted less packaging, so sustainability is in their mind now, and they want to live it, and it's getting more important in the future. That is my guess, yeah, from what I have seen on presentations and publications up to now.
I have some slight different view on this, so of course, sustainability is the way of life now, and everybody is adopting it all over the world. But I think, there will be some setback, at least to start with, because of the COVID. And two reasons why I think so are like, one of them is that, people are looking for more value for money products, value for money brands. So that is where, the manufacturers can go to the cheapest ingredients, which are working and giving the good results, rather than spending on more sustainable alternatives. So that's one thought, why you can do that. Second is also, if you see the trending trends, all over the world, including India, it was like, sustainability was always coming in top 5, with sustainable source, you say renewables and all this stuff, RSPO, responsible care. These were very important claims for the new launches. But now if you see, the top 5 claims are all about safety, microbial, safe for family, antimicrobial, so complete protection. So I think, the time being, the focus has more onto health and hygiene and cheaper products, which will slightly derail the progress that's happening on sustainable products. But I agree with one point that yes, it will be temporary. I think sustainability is here to stay, and it will grow in the future as well.
Can I put in, I'll differ slightly again over here, because what has happened is in past few months, when people have been using too many alcohol-based products, they have been using any product which was available in the market, because there was shortage of materials, there was shortage of, so whatever they were getting over the shelf, they were picking and using. There was no brand loyalty. And in this scenario, a lot of side effects. There are people who have come up with side effects. They are having dry hands. They are seeing a lot of changes in their skin textures and all. And that is why the sustainability consumers have again started looking at safe products, sustainable products. So they are looking at these type of sustainability has again come into, because they have, the general consumer has a thought in their mind that if the products are, the COVID has come from the environment, and it is now, though it is whatever the source might be, but if they are able to save the environment, maybe similar such diseases will not come up. And that's why COVID has changed the sustainability aspect little bit, and there will be growth of sustainability for not in the next 6 months till the time whole market settles down, but after that, surely yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that question itself has, it is a very subjective one, basically. So there will be differing views, and nobody is going to be absolutely correct or wrong on those. Probably good to have a discussion in a deeper sense in future. We have time for a few questions. There are a couple, these have been a bit more general. There are a couple of more technically specific questions. I think we should also field those so that, finally, HPCI does want to not be generalist in its outlook, but also address very specific queries. So taking a couple of them, specific to rheology modifiers, what do you see as the trend? we see most acrylates or xanthan in terms of the natural ingredients. Is there any thoughts from the supplier's point of view as to what could be the trends in the use of rheology modifiers in cosmetics going ahead?
Yeah, actually, there, as I was mentioning, that polymers, specifically rheology modifiers, are finding a lot of traction in the industry right now. We definitely see with the move, like I completely agree with Dr. Renuka as well. There's a shift now, even for people looking at sanitizers without alcohols and all. Rheology modifiers actually play a big role as a thickening agent, as a and especially if we talk of naturals, xanthan gum, yes, is definitely the one that even a company like us is also exploring. Naturals would be the in this case as well. Yeah.
Okay. Also, a question that stems from sustainability in terms of, again, a specific one though is, what would be the future of mineral-based cosmetics and personal care products?
There is a scope. It will grow.
Okay. There was one question which I can't locate it, but the gist of it was pre-COVID we had started seeing a mega trend of people moving away from alcohol-based hand sanitizers, and now of course the times have forced us to come back with alcohol-based products. Do you think this is something that's going to sustain in the long term, or is this just a short-term transient phenomenon?
I think this is just a short term. It will go back to the earlier times. People are now, they have already started looking for alcohol-free products.
Okay.
I also completely agree with Dr. Renuka, as I was earlier also mentioning. This is just a short-term trend which has come because of a non-availability of other raw materials and all. It will turn back again to going with see, alcohol provides you a very short-term sanitization effect. If you're looking at more long-term, it has to combine with other antimicrobials and other formats would be coming in. Yeah, so you will have aquagels coming into picture. You will have foams coming in, and I think in the mid-term, definitely these would be the formats which would be much more preferred, or a spray for on-the-go kind of applications. Yeah.
Okay, so we have time for just one question, and I think that's the question which everyone seems to be asking today. How do you think the whole China situation is going to impact the raw material scenario, if at all, in the immediate as well as in the long term?
Well, I think for HPC industry in particular, if I have to say, we have dependence on China only for few basic chemicals. I don't think we are heavily dependent on China. It will be more of vegetable oil, palm-based, and other commodities which are out of China. So yes, there are some basic chemicals which are there in China, but I think we also have alternate sources for those chemicals in Europe and other part of Asia. So it's a time for us to focus on other alternatives. In general, I don't see a big impact either on the availability or on cost front. Major impact to HPC players, I don't think so.
Okay. Look, there are many questions. Yeah, sorry, please go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just bit to differ. It depends upon which markets you are looking into. If I look at the overall dependence of API and organic chemistry, organic chemicals that India has. So India has pharma API is very big. 66% dependency is on China actually. And if I look at organic chemicals, it's around 38%. So yes, I'll agree with Manish for some of the products that he mentioned. Definitely, there the dependency is not there on China, but still for some basic raw materials, China is one of the biggest suppliers. So definitely in the short term, I feel the impact would be there. For us as well, and I think Manish would agree, most of us already have been working on alternate vendor development and suppliers, be it local or from other geographies as well. But short term, definitely, I see that there would be an impact.
In fact, I feel that this is an opportunity which has been presented to most of the people in India. They can start, so much of industries can grow up and come up. So ideally, this is the right time for people to grab the opportunities and start manufacturing these raw materials and look at being completely like you have to be independent. So that's what we should look at. Yes, it is going to cause some problem, what Mr. Manish, Mr. Nitin mentioned, but this is something that we should look upon.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, my reply was mostly from HPC ingredients, not API then.
Okay. Look, we have come to the documented end of this particular session. There are multiple questions that are unanswered, and believe me, there are extremely relevant ones. So while I am tempted to field a few, I think we must maintain the decorum of time, because everyone has blocked their time on a Saturday evening. But what I can assure you is that we have made a serious note of all of these, and our engagement with the industry is going to continue perennially using our different tools and fora. We are going to assimilate some of the important points, questions, and bunch them into, let's say, an input document for future webinars that we'll hold. I can already see a very compelling case for holding something on antimicrobials and the antivirals, not only in terms of the ingredients, but also in terms of the formulations, the legislations, and also the impact that they will have on effluents or in terms of their leaching into the ground. So I'm going to call this session to a close right now, but we really look forward to your continued engagement. We are here as HPCI, as a vertical, as a consolidated forum to stay, and we are here to serve the industry to the best of our abilities and make a serious difference out here. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of us, and we really look forward to that. Please do keep the feedback flowing somewhere in the webinar chat. I'm going to continue this session for the next few minutes so that all of you can also make your notes and also take down our contact details, which I've mentioned somewhere in the webinar chat. Please do keep the feedback flowing. Our ability to do better and be more insightful and incisive in what we deliver back to the industry is largely going to depend on the feedback that you give us. So please do this, and let's continue on this journey. I think the sum and substance of a lot of the discussions is that there are huge opportunities, there are challenges, but I think in the true Indian philosophical sense, nothing is destroyed, nothing is really going to be created. The opportunities are going to be as real as they always were. It's just that the forms in which they appear and manifest themselves are going to morph. The consensus is that in the short term, personal care will take a little bit of a backseat vis-a-vis home care. But even in the personal care segment, there are certain sectors, certain products which are going to gain. So by and large, there is nothing to be despondent about. There are huge opportunities for the industry per se. Looking inwards into India, I think there are magnified opportunities in terms of making better products, import substitution, also significant opportunities on the export front. So let's work together as an industry. All of you are already doing brilliant work in the supply chain. We'd like to make our little difference in terms of being a committed and sustainable service providing partner to all of you. So on that little note, thank you once again. Thanks in particular to all our panel members for sharing their time, their wisdom with us. And believe me, this will go a long way in helping us achieve our goals in the, as we go ahead. So thank you, everyone, and look forward to being in touch going ahead. Thank you once again. Guru, maybe you should have the last word.
Yeah, I think most of it has been already said by Dilip. So I just wanted to thank on behalf of the Nuremberg Messe and Expo Nova India for attending this very insightful webinar organized by HPCI India team. We hope that you found the webinar very informative, worthwhile, as a primary goal was to bring together a diaspora experts and industry professionals under one roof to discuss and deliberate issues. So I'm sure that in that sense, the speakers did provide a very good information in this webinar. So I thank each one of our panelists who took time from the schedule, also being a Saturday, and participate with us in this webinar. Special thanks to Ms. Birgit Huber, Dr. Renuka Tergaonkar, Mr. Manish Chaudhary, Mr. Nitin Sharma, and not the least, our moderator, presenter, Mr. Dilip Raghavan, for putting up a very stimulating webinar session. Stay tuned for the next upcoming webinar sessions by following us on the social media websites. There's also the email and contacts of the HPCI India team is already there in your screen. So I thank each one of you to take your time out to participate in this webinar. Thank you once again. Stay safe and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.